The mirror in Madison Parker's dormitory room reflected back a young woman filled with excitement and nervous anticipation as she carefully applied lipstick for what felt like the 100th time that evening. It was Saturday, October 15th, 1988, and the freshman homecoming dance at Riverside College was just 2 hours away. At 19, Madison was finally experiencing the independence and social opportunities that college life had promised, and tonight's dance represented everything she had dreamed about during her high school years in the small town of Millbrook, 40 miles north of the campus. Madison's roommate Jennifer Walsh was putting the finishing touches on her own outfit while providing a running commentary on Madison's preparation process. The two girls had become close friends during their first month of college, bonding over their shared experiences of adjusting to life away from home and their mutual excitement about participating in campus activities. Jennifer was attending the dance with her boyfriend from high school, while Madison had been asked by David Chen, a sophomore she had met in her biology class. The dress Madison had chosen for the occasion was a deep blue cocktail dress that she had purchased specifically for the dance during a shopping trip to the nearby city with her mother the previous weekend. The dress had cost more than Madison typically spent on clothing, but her parents, Robert and Susan Parker, had insisted on buying it for her as a celebration of her successful transition to college life. Madison had been an excellent student in high school and had received a partial academic scholarship to Riverside College, where she was studying pre-medicine with dreams of becoming a pediatrician. David Chen had asked Madison to the dance 3 weeks earlier, after they had been paired together for a laboratory assignment in their introductory biology course. David was a popular student who was involved in several campus organizations, and Madison had been flattered and excited when he showed interest in dating her. Their few interactions had been pleasant and comfortable, and Madison was looking forward to spending an evening getting to know him better outside of the academic environment. The homecoming dance was being held in the college's main ballroom, located in the Student Center building at the heart of the campus. The event was one of the most anticipated social gatherings of the fall semester, featuring a live band, formal dinner, and dancing that would continue until midnight. Madison and David had made plans to meet at the dance rather than having him pick her up at her dormitory, as David was coming from his fraternity house, and Madison wanted the flexibility of driving herself to the event. Madison's car was a 1985 Honda Accord that her parents had given her as a high school graduation gift. The car was burgundy with beige interior, and while it wasn't the newest or most stylish vehicle on campus, it was reliable and provided Madison with the independence to travel between college and home when she wanted to visit her family. She had decorated the car with a Riverside College parking decal and a small air freshener that hung from the rearview mirror, making it distinctly hers among the sea of student vehicles in the campus parking lots. At 7:30 p.m., Madison declared herself ready for the dance and gathered her small purse, which contained her identification, some cash, lipstick for touch-ups, and the keys to her Honda Accord. Jennifer wished her luck and reminded her to call if she needed a ride back to the dormitory later in the evening. Madison promised to be careful and to have a wonderful time, her excitement evident in her bright smile and animated conversation about her expectations for the evening. Madison left her dormitory at 7:45 p.m., allowing herself plenty of time to drive to the student center and find parking before the dance officially began at 8:30. The drive from her residence hall to the student center typically took about 10 minutes, following a route that circled the outer edge of the campus before arriving at the main academic and social buildings. Madison had made this drive dozens of times since arriving at college and was completely familiar with the route and the parking options available near the student center. The evening was clear and mild for mid-October, with temperatures in the low 60s and a gentle breeze that carried the scent of fallen leaves from the mature oak and maple trees that lined the campus walkways. Madison felt confident and beautiful as she walked to her car, her heels clicking on the sidewalk and her dress flowing elegantly as she moved. She had spent considerable time preparing for this evening and felt that her efforts had resulted in a look that was both sophisticated and appropriate for her first formal college dance. Madison's Honda Accord was parked in the designated student lot behind her dormitory building, a space she had been assigned at the beginning of the semester and used regularly for her campus transportation needs. The parking lot was well lit and generally considered safe, though it was somewhat isolated from the main foot traffic patterns of the campus. Madison had never experienced any problems or concerns related to her parking arrangement and felt comfortable walking to and from her car at various times of day and evening. As Madison approached her vehicle, she encountered Lisa Thompson, a girl from her English literature class who was also preparing to leave for an evening activity. The two students chatted briefly about their respective plans for the night, with Lisa mentioning that she was meeting friends at a local restaurant for dinner. Madison shared her excitement about the homecoming dance and her nervousness about her date with David. Their conversation lasted approximately 5 minutes before both girls went to their respective cars. Lisa Thompson would later provide investigators with the last confirmed sighting of Madison Parker. According to Lisa's account, Madison seemed happy and excited about her evening plans, showing no signs of anxiety, distress, or concern about anything other than typical pre-date nervousness. Madison had mentioned looking forward to the live band and to dancing, and she had expressed hope that the evening would go well with David. Madison started her Honda Accord at approximately 7:55 p.m. and drove out of the dormitory parking lot, waving goodbye to Lisa Thompson as she departed. The route from her dormitory to the student center was straightforward, requiring her to follow campus roads for most of the distance before joining a short stretch of public road that connected different sections of the college property. Madison had driven this route many times and was familiar with all of its turns, stop signs, and potential traffic patterns. However, Madison never arrived at the homecoming dance that evening. David Chen waited for her near the entrance to the ballroom, checking his watch repeatedly as 8:30 came and went without any sign of his date. By 9 o'clock, David was concerned enough to ask other students if they had seen Madison, and by 9:30, he had convinced several friends to help him search the parking areas around the student center in case Madison had arrived but was having trouble finding him. The search of the parking areas revealed no sign of Madison's burgundy Honda Accord. David and his friends expanded their search to include other campus parking lots where Madison might have left her car if the lots near the student center had been full. They also checked the dormitory areas in case Madison had returned to her room for some reason, though David couldn't imagine why she would have done so without calling him or leaving a message. At 10:15 p.m., David Chen made the decision to contact Madison's dormitory to see if she had returned or if her roommate had heard from her. Jennifer Walsh was surprised to learn that Madison had never arrived at the dance, as she had left the dormitory over 2 hours earlier with plenty of time to reach the student center. Jennifer confirmed that Madison had not returned to the room and that she had not received any phone calls or messages from her roommate. Jennifer and David decided to contact campus security to report Madison's absence from the dance and their inability to locate her anywhere on campus. Campus security officer Raymond Martinez took their report seriously, though he initially suggested that Madison might have experienced car trouble, decided to visit friends, or simply changed her mind about attending the dance. However, when David and Jennifer explained Madison's excitement about the event and her responsible nature regarding commitments, Officer Martinez agreed to initiate a more thorough search. The campus security search began immediately and continued throughout the night of October 15th and into the early morning hours of October 16th. Security officers checked every parking lot on campus, examined all buildings that were accessible to students, and contacted other residence halls to see if Madison had visited friends. The search revealed no trace of Madison or her burgundy Honda Accord, and no students reported seeing her after her departure from the dormitory parking lot. At 6 a.m. on October 16th, campus security contacted the local police department to request assistance with what was now being treated as a missing person case. Detective Carol Rodriguez of the Riverside Police Department was assigned to the case and arrived on campus within an hour to begin a formal investigation. Rodriguez was a 12-year veteran of the department who had handled numerous missing person cases involving college students. Detective Rodriguez's first step was to conduct detailed interviews with Madison's roommate, her date, and anyone else who had contact with her on October 15th. The interviews revealed a consistent picture of a happy, well-adjusted college freshman who was excited about her social plans and showed no signs of distress, depression, or desire to disappear voluntarily. Madison was described as responsible, studious, and committed to her academic goals. The investigation expanded to include Madison's family, who were contacted at their home in Millbrook on Sunday morning, October 16th. Robert and Susan Parker were devastated to learn that their daughter was missing and immediately drove to Riverside College to assist with the search efforts. They provided Detective Rodriguez with detailed information about Madison's personality, habits, and any recent changes in her behavior that might explain her disappearance. The family interviews revealed no problems that might motivate Madison to run away or disappear voluntarily. She was doing well academically, had adjusted successfully to college life, and maintained regular contact with her parents. Madison had no history of depression, anxiety, or rebellious behavior, and she had never disappeared or caused concern for her family in the past. Her relationship with her parents was described as close and supportive, with regular phone calls and weekend visits home. Detective Rodriguez also investigated Madison's financial situation and personal relationships to rule out any factors that might explain her disappearance. Madison's bank account showed normal activity with no large withdrawals or unusual transactions. Her academic records showed consistent attendance and good grades in all her classes. There was no evidence of romantic problems, conflicts with other students, or involvement with drugs or alcohol that might have led to risky situations. The search for Madison's Honda Accord expanded beyond the college campus to include the surrounding community and the route between Riverside College and her family's home in Millbrook. Police officers checked hospital parking lots, shopping centers, and any location where a college student might reasonably have stopped during an evening trip. The search also included rural roads and wooded areas where a car might have experienced mechanical problems or been involved in an accident. After 1 week of intensive searching, no trace of Madison or her vehicle had been found. Detective Rodriguez coordinated with state police to expand the search area and to enter Madison's information into national databases for missing persons. Madison's description and that of her Honda Accord were distributed to law enforcement agencies throughout the region, and her case was featured in local media coverage that generated dozens of tips from the public. The tips ranged from reported sightings of Madison or her car to theories about what might have happened to her. Several people reported seeing a burgundy Honda Accord on various roads on the night of October 15th, but none of these sightings could be confirmed or linked definitively to Madison's vehicle. Other tips suggested that Madison might have been seen at restaurants, gas stations, or shopping centers, but investigation of these reports revealed cases of mistaken identity. As weeks passed without any significant developments, the investigation into Madison's disappearance began to focus on potential foul play scenarios. Detective Rodriguez worked with behavioral analysts to develop theories about what might have happened to a college freshman driving alone to a campus social event. The theories ranged from random crime to targeted abduction by someone who had been observing Madison's routines and habits. One line of investigation focused on the possibility that Madison had been followed or stalked by someone who knew her schedule and planned to intercept her during her drive to the homecoming dance. Detective Rodriguez interviewed Madison's classmates, professors, and campus employees to identify anyone who might have shown unusual interest in her or who had access to information about her activities and movements. The investigation revealed that Madison had been receiving occasional phone calls from someone who would hang up when she answered, though she had not considered these calls particularly threatening or concerning. Jennifer Walsh confirmed that these calls had occurred several times over the past month, usually during evening hours when Madison was in her dormitory room. Madison had assumed the calls were wrong numbers or pranks and had not reported them to campus security. Detective Rodriguez also investigated the possibility that Madison's disappearance might be connected to other crimes in the area. A review of recent cases revealed several incidents involving young women who had been approached by suspicious individuals in parking lots or isolated areas near the college. However, none of these incidents had resulted in abductions or serious crimes, and the descriptions of the suspicious individuals varied too much to suggest a pattern. As 1988 ended and 1989 began, the active investigation into Madison's disappearance continued, but with diminishing hope of finding her alive. Detective Rodriguez maintained regular contact with Madison's family and continued to follow leads as they developed, but the complete absence of physical evidence or credible witnesses made progress increasingly difficult. Madison's parents established a reward fund for information leading to their daughter's whereabouts and maintained a constant presence in media coverage of the case. They appeared on television programs, spoke at campus safety seminars, and worked with missing persons organizations to keep Madison's story in the public consciousness. The family's bedroom in their Millbrook home became a command center for coordinating search efforts and managing communication with law enforcement and media. The first anniversary of Madison's disappearance brought renewed attention to the case and generated fresh tips from the public. However, none of the new information led to significant developments in the investigation. As years passed, the case gradually transitioned from an active investigation to a cold case that was reviewed periodically but had no new leads to pursue. Madison would have graduated from Riverside College in 1992, and her parents attended the graduation ceremony in her honor, accepting a degree that she would never use. The family maintained hope that Madison might still be alive somewhere, possibly suffering from amnesia or being held against her will, but they also began to accept the likelihood that she had been murdered on the night she disappeared. Detective Rodriguez retired from the Riverside Police Department in 2005. But she never stopped thinking about the Madison Parker case. She had developed a personal connection to Madison's family and felt responsible for finding answers about their daughter's fate. Even in retirement, Rodriguez continued to review the case file periodically, and to follow up on any new information that emerged. The breakthrough in the case came in September 2021, 33 years after Madison's disappearance. The city of Riverside was conducting infrastructure improvements that included cleaning and expanding several drainage canals that carried stormwater from the urban areas to the nearby river. During this process, workers using specialized equipment to remove sediment and debris from one of the main drainage channels made a discovery that would finally answer the question of what had happened to Madison Parker. Buried under 3 decades of accumulated mud, vegetation, and debris, workers found the remains of a burgundy Honda Accord that matched the description of Madison's missing vehicle. The car was located approximately 2 miles from the Riverside College campus, in a section of drainage canal that was hidden from public view by dense vegetation and industrial buildings. The discovery was immediately reported to the Riverside Police Department, and Detective James Morrison, who had taken over responsibility for cold cases, arrived at the scene within an hour. Morrison contacted retired Detective Rodriguez, who came to the site to provide historical perspective on the case and to witness the recovery of evidence that she had been seeking for over 30 years. The Honda Accord was carefully extracted from the drainage canal, using specialized equipment that preserved as much evidence as possible. Despite being submerged for decades, the car's basic structure remained intact, and investigators were able to identify it definitively as Madison's vehicle through the VIN number and license plate information that was still partially visible. Inside the submerged Honda Accord, investigators discovered human remains that forensic analysis would later confirm belonged to Madison Parker. The condition of the remains made it difficult to determine the exact cause of death, but their position within the vehicle and the circumstances of the discovery provided important clues about what had happened on the night of October 15, 1988. Forensic examination of the vehicle revealed evidence that was consistent with Madison having been the victim of foul play rather than an accident. The car showed signs of impact damage that appeared to have occurred before it entered the water, and the positioning of Madison's remains suggested that she had been placed in the vehicle after her death rather than dying as a result of drowning. The discovery of Madison's Honda Accord in the drainage canal provided answers about her fate, while raising new questions about the circumstances of her death. Detective Morrison immediately reopened the active investigation into what was now classified as a homicide case. The evidence from the submerged vehicle was carefully preserved and analyzed using forensic techniques that had not been available in 1988. Advanced DNA analysis of evidence recovered from the Honda Accord revealed genetic material from an unknown male individual on several surfaces within the vehicle. This DNA evidence was entered into national databases for comparison with samples from other crime scenes and known offenders. The search revealed potential connections to several unsolved cases involving missing or murdered young women in the region over the past several decades. The investigation into Madison's murder focused on identifying individuals who might have had access to information about her activities on October 15, 1988, and who would have been capable of intercepting her during her drive to the homecoming dance. Detective Morrison reviewed all the original case files and conducted new interviews with people who had known Madison during her time at Riverside College. One name that emerged during the reinvestigation was particularly significant. Thomas Wright, a maintenance worker who had been employed by Riverside College in 1988 and who had access to information about student activities and campus events. Wright had been questioned briefly during the original investigation, but had not been considered a serious suspect at the time. Further investigation into Thomas Wright revealed a troubling criminal history that had not been fully known to investigators in 1988. Wright had been arrested several times for voyeurism and stalking, though he had never been convicted of violent crimes. More significantly, Wright had left his job at Riverside College abruptly, just days after Madison's disappearance, citing family emergencies that required him to move out of state. Detective Morrison's investigation revealed that Wright had died in 2015, making it impossible to question him directly about Madison's murder. However, the investigation of his background and activities during 1988 revealed compelling circumstantial evidence that he had been responsible for Madison's death. DNA analysis of evidence from Wright's former residence, which had been preserved by subsequent owners, revealed matches to the genetic material found in Madison's Honda Accord. Additionally, investigators discovered that Wright had owned a pickup truck in 1988 that showed damage consistent with having been used to push or ram another vehicle. The investigation revealed that Wright had apparently followed Madison as she left her dormitory on the evening of October 15, 1988. and had forced her vehicle off the road at a location between the dormitory and the student center. The evidence suggested that he had killed Madison at this secondary location before placing her body in her Honda Accord and disposing of the vehicle in the drainage canal where it would remain hidden for over 3 decades. The resolution of Madison's case provided closure for her family, though it also brought the painful knowledge that their daughter had been murdered by someone who had been watching and planning her death. Robert and Susan Parker, now in their 70s, finally had answers about Madison's fate, but they also had to confront the reality that her killer had lived freely for many years after committing his crime. The discovery of Madison's Honda Accord in the drainage canal led to changes in how missing person cases were investigated in the region. The case highlighted the importance of thoroughly searching waterways and drainage systems near locations where people were last seen, even when there was no immediate evidence pointing to those areas. Madison's case also contributed to advances in cold case investigation techniques, particularly regarding the use of DNA evidence to solve crimes that had remained unsolved for decades. The genetic material recovered from her vehicle provided definitive proof of the perpetrator's identity even though he had died years before the evidence was discovered. The Riverside College community held a memorial service for Madison Parker following the discovery of her remains. Former classmates, professors, and friends gathered to honor her memory and to finally say goodbye after 33 years of uncertainty. The service provided a form of closure that had been impossible, while her fate remained unknown. Madison's parents established a scholarship fund in their daughter's memory, providing financial assistance to pre-medical students who demonstrated the same academic excellence and dedication that Madison had shown during her brief time at Riverside College. The scholarship has helped dozens of young people pursue careers in medicine while honoring the memory of a young woman whose own medical career was cut short by violence. The dormitory room that Madison had shared with Jennifer Walsh was eventually converted to other uses as the campus evolved over the decades, but a small memorial plaque was placed in the residence hall lobby to commemorate Madison's life and to remind students of the importance of personal safety. The plaque serves as both a tribute to Madison and a reminder of the vulnerability that exists even in seemingly secure environments. The drainage canal where Madison's Honda Accord was discovered has since been completely renovated as part of the city's infrastructure improvements. The area is now more visible and accessible, making it unlikely that evidence could remain hidden there for extended periods. However, the location serves as a somber reminder of how crimes can remain concealed for decades until technology and circumstances combine to reveal the truth. Detective Morrison continues to work on other cold cases, using the techniques and lessons learned from Madison's investigation to solve crimes that have remained unsolved for years or decades. He often speaks at law enforcement conferences about the importance of preserving evidence and maintaining hope that even the oldest cases can eventually be resolved. The case of Madison Parker serves as a reminder of how quickly a normal college evening can turn deadly when predators target vulnerable young people. Her story continues to be studied by law enforcement professionals and used in training programs for investigators who specialize in missing persons and homicide cases. The blue dress that Madison had chosen so carefully for her first college dance was never worn to the homecoming event she had anticipated with such excitement. Instead, it became evidence in a murder case that would take over 3 decades to solve. The dress, like Madison herself, represented promise and potential that were stolen by an act of senseless violence. Today, the Student Center at Riverside College continues to host dances and social events that bring joy and celebration to new generations of students. But for those who remember Madison Parker's story, these events serve as reminders of the importance of vigilance and the need to protect the young people who are just beginning to discover their independence and pursue their dreams. The routine drive from dormitory to dance that should have taken 10 minutes instead became a mystery that spanned more than 3 decades and involved multiple generations of investigators, advanced forensic technology, and the persistent love of parents who never stopped searching for their daughter. Madison's story continues to resonate with families throughout the region, serving as both a tragedy and a testament to the importance of never giving up the search for truth and justice, no matter how many years may pass.